We have several updates from the border, the biggest story of which from CNN. Mexico sends nearly 15,000 troops to the U.S. border. Kind of a big deal. So we've seen the U.S. sending troops to the border. Now Mexico is doing it. And it would seem that Mexico is upholding its end of the deal with Donald Trump, that they need to do something about the migrant crisis and the caravans. So let's read this story a little bit. But I'm going to do this real quick. I don't have the tab pulled up, but go to timcast.com/donate if you want to support my work. There's a bunch of different ways you can do it. But the most important thing right now, considering all of the news around censorship, is just share this video if you like what you see. I'm not going to rely on YouTube to do any promotion for me. If you guys think my content is good, you guys can share it. If not, I don't deserve to be watched in the first place. We'll figure it out. Well, let's get back to the news. Mexico has deployed almost 15,000 troops to the U.S.-Mexico border, according to the country's Secretary of Defense, Luis Sandoval. In the northern part of the country, we have deployed a total of almost 15,000 troops composed of National Guard elements and military units, Sandoval announced today in Cancun. Approximately 2,000 National Guard members have already been deployed to Mexico's southern border with Belize and Guatemala, he noted, adding that 4,500 troops already spread across the area. Many migrants begin their journey in Central America and even further south, passing through Mexico on their way toward the United States. The deployments come after renewed pressure from the Trump administration on Mexico to help slow migration flows northward. Mexico, however, has also called on the United Nations and the United States to help with the monumental task. Migration is not a crime. It is an administrative responsibility. I don't necessarily know what he means by that. That's kind of seems like a non sequitur. But I will say this. I don't think it's Mexico's fault or Guatemala's fault. Well, necessarily. I don't think there's anyone's fault that America is doing great. In fact, America is a great place to live. Certainly, we've got a lot of problems going on right now with the culture war and politics. Seems like things are kind of breaking down. So that's kind of bad. But hey, we're a prosperous nation and life is pretty good. Because of this, people want to come here. I absolutely respect that. And I, of all people, want to share the wealth, share the prosperity. You guys knew I was a Bernie Sanders fan, right? I wouldn't call myself, I would jokingly refer to myself as a socialist, but not really, like mixed economy, you know. But I really do like the idea of helping other people move up, come to the U.S. and do better. But guess what? There's a legal process for it for a specific reason, for many specific reasons. We don't want traffickers on the border. We don't want drugs on the border. We don't want problems in our country. So I think Trump actually said, let all the migrants come legally, and what's wrong with that? Like, I don't understand why that's a problem. So here's the thing. As I've covered in the past several days, Democrats, for the most part, are on board with a $4.5 billion aid package. I haven't checked the latest updates, but I do have some news in and around this area. It's the far-left Democrats like Ocasio-Cortez, Rashida Tlaib, Ayanna Pressley, et cetera, who are obstructing this under the hashtag not $1. The idea being that they're not going to give any money for any reason. Okay, well, I got really angry the other day because guess what? This is a story from Reuters. And this kind of news breaks my heart. This is from today. Actually, it's from just a few hours ago from the time of recording. 7 migrant deaths reported in extreme heat at the U.S. border. No, my understanding is that these were not coming from within the camps. These are coming from people taking a very dangerous journey. Excuse me, I'm going to sneeze. It's a very dangerous journey. And the extreme heat ended the lives of 7 people who are looking for better circumstances. It's unfortunate. I would like to provide better circumstances for these people, and I think immigration is enriching and wonderful for our country. The problem is a legal process for just this reason. The journey through broken borders and open desert is dangerous, and of all the things we can cite as to why we need a legal process for this, the economy, stopping crime, protecting the innocent, protecting local jurisdictions, properly placing people. Sure, those are all great administrative reasons. But let me just say the most important reason is to prevent people from making an extremely risky and dangerous trek through the wilderness and dying in the extreme heat. This is the point of border security and a legal process. Because without it, people are incentivized to take the dangerous journey because it's a huge gamble. If you make it, if you win, it's like winning the lottery. You're in America, the land of opportunity. I can certainly get that. But even then, you're not going to enjoy the same privileges as a true American citizen or a migrant who's here legally. Granted, there are those that would argue, Get rid of the legalities and everyone is legal. They say no one, what did David Hogg tweet the other day? No one is illegal on stolen land. Okay, tell it for literally every country in the world, period, because land wasn't owned by any, man, I don't even need to get into it, but yes, land has been stolen back and forth by many different countries. So by all means, make that argument, make a globalist argument, that's fine. The point is, you can't just have people coming through the desert because they will get hurt. Children have died. So this is why I don't know if a border wall makes sense. It's really crazy because I'll say okay, I hear the idea of a border wall, and then I get this nonsensical criticism where it's like, oh, so Tim's supporting Trump. It's like, well, hold on. I'm talking about ideas and solutions. I don't care who's proposing them. If you think the wall is a bad idea, let's come up with a solution. I'll tell you what right now, I am biased against the idea of the wall. What's your proposed solution? Democrats have offered up enhanced security and technology. Okay, I hear that. But then they don't want to give more money for the facilities and things like this. So you know what? We're now at a point where I guess you have to concede that Trump was right to the extent there is a crisis. Even the Democrats agree. Thank you. Okay? Now, the far-left Democrats are still obstructing. And here, let's read this story because I want to make sure I can express the gravity of the situation as to why, all the political posturing, all the politicking is a huge waste of time. And in my opinion, it's bad. It's just, okay, look. Authorities in Texas reported 7 migrant deaths on Monday, including those of a woman, 2 babies, and a toddler, showing the danger of extreme summer heat as Central American families surge across the U.S.-Mexico border. The woman and 3 children may have been dead for days before they were found by Border Patrol at the Rio Grande in South Texas on Sunday, according to a local law enforcement official who asked not to be named. They are thought to have died from heat exposure and dehydration in an area about 18 miles east of McAllen. That's serious to walk, okay? To the west, U.S. Border Patrol agents in the Del Rio area recovered the bodies of 2 men on ranchland near Carrizo Springs after anonymous calls on June 19th and 20th alerted them to lost migrants, the agency said in a statement. Another decomposed body. Wow. Okay, we're getting to, look, I think you get the point. I don't want to get into the great detail on this. I want to point out it doesn't have to be about politics. You can say whatever you want about administration, about open borders, fine. But know this, even if the borders were completely legally open, I believe that would only result in more loss of life, and that's what we should be fighting against. That should be our main priority. Forget everything else. Forget the economics, okay? By all means, keep those arguments, talk to your friends, talk about these policies, but let's just do this. The first and most important thing, in my opinion, is protecting human life. And I think everyone left and right can agree to that, right? So then let's say this. Without border security, if we had straight open borders, people would be wandering through the desert like crazy. Granted, presumably people would be going through the main ports of entry like San Ysidro, but then you have just congestion and you have people. So I'd imagine congestion, the people who work between the border would be having trouble, and people would still resort to coming through these open areas. Not only that, but even with a complete open border, you're going to have people who are still trying to bring in illegal things going through these areas. And guess what? I imagine through sheer arithmetic, you will see more loss of life. What can we do to stop people from walking through the desert with their babies to protect them? Okay, I'm not going to leave so there it is. I'm not going to leave this story just on this one issue. I'm going to I want to make sure I highlight, as I've said time and time again, the conditions at these border facilities are not good, and I detest them, and I will have no problem speaking out against them, and I hope you would all as well. However, I'm waiting for a solution to the problem. I'm asking Democrats to propose something that might solve the situation and help. Okay, so right now we have the story from the Sydney Morning Herald. Migrant kids on U.S. border moved after bad treatment exposed. In Clint, Texas, the U.S. government has removed most of the children from a remote Border Patrol station in Texas following reports that more than 300 children were detained there, caring for each other with inadequate food, water, and sanitation. Just 30 children remained at the facility near El Paso Monday, said Representative Veronica Escobar, after her office was briefed on the situation by an official with Customs and Border Protection. They say attorneys who visited the Border Patrol station in Clint, Texas last week said older children were trying to take care of infants and toddlers. The Associated Press first reported on Thursday. They described a 4-year-old with matted hair who had gone without a shower for days and hungry. Inconsolable children struggling to soothe one another. Some had been locked for 3 weeks inside the facility, where 15 children were sick with the flu and another 10 were in medical quarantine. So I'm not sure if they name which facility this is. It's just the El Paso facility. So I'm not sure where Homestead is, but I do know that we do have a problem with a lot of kids coming here unaccompanied. What do we do with them? Legitimate question. There was a woman on Twitter who tweeted that it's time to free these kids, to release these kids from these conditions. And I said, I completely agree 100%. Where do they go? One of the biggest problems we have is that people are less interested in talking about what comes next, and they're more concerned about what my side wants. So you've got Trump supporters saying, close the border down, stop the migrants. Okay, sure. Well, that would prevent loss of life and prevent kids in these conditions. I understand that makes sense. You have the left saying, stop locking these kids up, stop separating from their parents. Absolutely. I think these conditions are horrible, and I don't like this. I don't like hearing these stories. What can we do better? I don't think either side is wrong, but I do think we need to have a conversation about what makes the most sense. And I would lean towards disincentivizing kids from coming here because we don't have the facilities. Administrative problems result in children suffering. And yes, we should get these kids out of there. Glad they did. Where do they go? Apparently they've gone somewhere in this case. Great. But we need funding. We've got Democrats who are posturing on not one more dollar like Ocasio-Cortez. Great. Well, that's not helping anything. I get it. You want a virtue signal to your base that you're not going to fund ICE and you want ICE to be abolished. This is CBP, not ICE. Well, they're willing to let these kids continue suffering because they don't like the government. And I assure you, there are people in government who don't mind the suffering because they think it might disincentivize migrants from coming here. I think it's a fair point to make that this may be a huge disincentivization, or however you want to describe it, to migrants coming here when they hear stories that they will lose their kids and their kids will suffer. That's horrifying. We need to just secure the border and stop human suffering and protect life. And there are simple ways to go about doing it if we can please have a conversation. This conversation should be over. Democrats and Republicans, for the most part, have come together in an agreement, $4.5 billion. Fantastic. Well, then I would say to the far left Democrats, let's see you get on board. And there we have it. So final thought on this segment. Mexico is now engaging the border in a similar way to the U.S., sending 15,000 troops to their northern border, which is our southern border. I don't know if that's good or bad. It's happening. Something needs to be done to disincentivize these children and these women and these people, everybody. I don't want to separate it. People in general should not be losing their lives in this journey. They shouldn't be going on the journey. We need to figure this out. Thanks for hanging out. Stick around. I got more segments coming up. Next one at 4 p.m. An update to the Project Veritas situation. For those on the podcast, you probably already heard it, but the order is different online. So I will see you at 4 p.m. Thanks for hanging out. Stick around.